Hello guys and welcome back to my channel. I've got new hair. You probably can't tell, but it's really super short at the front, so I'm a bit scared when it dries curly naturally. Do you really know what to do with new hair? But anyway, today's video is a girl chat, a girl talk video, which is something that I've never done before, but it's also something that I'm pretty big on in terms of the fact that I spoke a lot and very openly about my potential endometriosis, PCOS, pelvic inflammatory disease, and it turns out that it is my bowel. And I've obviously spoken a lot about my bowels on Instagram. I did obviously speak about this on YouTube as well. I did a few videos after my surgery, but I basically just asked questions on Instagram in terms of like a girl talk, periods, sex, pain, your menstrual cycle, training on your menstrual cycle, not being able to lose fat, everything like that. So I've summed them all up and I'm just going to go through some of the questions with you, and hopefully this will help you in terms of what I think a lot of people think is like a taboo topic in terms of your period and this and that. So without further ado, what type of birth control do you use and if you would recommend it? So in terms of birth control, I've never ever been on the pill. When I was a swimmer, so I think I started my period pretty late, okay? I was probably about 15, don't know if that's late or not, 15, 16. And I didn't need anything personally, I didn't need to use anything. And then I actually had the coil fitted when I was 18. And this is basically because at the time, I don't know how true this is, but my swimming coach was like, I don't want you to be on the pill because of the side effects of the weight gain. Now, as a young swimmer, this isn't something that I wanted to hear. I couldn't be bothered with the faff of taking something to then affect my performance. Not that I think it would have. I'm not too sure. I was quite like naive in that situation. I was like, yeah, I'll get the coil. So I had the coil fitted when I was 18, which is very young in terms of getting it fitted, because you do usually have the coil once you've had children or because of a certain situation. Now, I had the coil fitted and I was in an awful lot of pain. And again, it doesn't happen to everyone. I'm not saying it's a bad birth control to have. I just was in a lot of pain for a few weeks, and I also was on my period for about 4 or 5 months straight. Yeah, okay, that was pretty intense. I mean, it wasn't good for me, but I got so used to it. But I got really, really bad cramps. So 2 years down the line, I had the coil removed. I had the Marina coil. I mean, I had it removed because we thought that was why my stomach was in so much pain for the past 2 years. We thought it would come in as scar tissue or something like that, but it wasn't. I'll go on to that another question. I now have the depot injection, which is just an injection every single 3 months in your bum cheek, and it has been fantastic. So in terms of recommendations for me personally, like I think I'd forget to take the pill, or I just wouldn't, I don't know, I'm very comfortable with having the injection done every 3 months. Super simple, you just go to your doctors. But I've also heard really good stuff about certain pills. I've also heard really bad stuff about certain pills. So it's just dependent on you as a person, really, in terms of your situation, if you're in a relationship, if you're not in a relationship, and things like that. How can you find motivation to work out on your period? Now, this is a tricky one because I've done sport since I was about 8 years old. Started my period when I was 16. I was a full-time athlete, so being a swimmer on your period, it's something you have to get used to. Obviously, you have to wear tampons and stuff. I got used to that from a very young age. So in terms of changing that into training in the gym, it's not been a big deal for me at all. Like in the slightest, it was far, far more intense and worse when I was a swimmer. It was very like uncomfortable to be a swimmer and to be on your period. But with training, I think you just like, I'm going to go into more detail in terms of the menstrual cycle, but it's one of those things, you have to know where you are in your menstrual cycle. So I'm going to explain that, like I've said, in more detail after. But there's certain points when maybe you should be doing a less intensity session, or maybe like midweek during when you're ovulating, you want to be doing a hardcore session, hitting PRs and everything like that, because that's when you have the most testosterone. So it's very dependent on where you are in your cycle. So you have to know your menstrual cycle, you have to know the 2 weeks before your period, your ovulation, and then the week following. I just need to know if you wear underwear with your leggings. I really struggle not showing a panty line. So this is actually a question that I get so commonly in terms of what underwear I wear. So I wear a thong or a G-string because you can't see the line, you can't see the panty line, but I would be very uncomfortable not wearing anything. I know some people do, which is fab. feel free, whatever, but I'm definitely not the type of person not to wear underwear in the gym. How's the low FODMAP diet going, and how can you eat those pick and mix? Okay, so the FODMAP diet is something that I've been doing. I'll put a link up here in terms of like what I eat in a day and what happened with my surgery. So I had my surgery on the 2nd of Jan, or maybe the 3rd of Jan, and that was to check for endometriosis, for anything to do with my womb, cysts, things like that, and we realised it was actually my bowel. Storing a lot of gas, a lot of fluid, twice the size. It should be very irritated, but it's not IBS, so it's quite difficult in terms of that it's undiagnosed, so it's uncomfortable not knowing what it is. But I've been doing the low FODMAP diet, which has actually been okay. It's been okay. It's pretty hard to do because when I say you can't eat a lot of food at all, you cannot eat a lot of food at all, and it's one of the things where you had to be so stubborn. First 3 weeks I was like really good, I was like so good, but then because you can't have like anything like chocolate or flavourings, can't have like vegan magnums or anything because it's got flavourings in it, and I was like, oh, there's nothing hitting my sweet tooth. So that's why I have like pick and mix and stuff. It doesn't really affect me. I know I shouldn't have them, but I have been having pick and mix, and I've been okay. I do go out for dinner once a week with Ben and stuff as well, and I just make really, really good choices. Are your periods regular, and do you suffer any pains from it, such as belly, backaches? So I actually do not bleed. This is something that I think I've not, probably in about 2 years that I've not. I don't know if it's because of the birth control that I use, like going from the coil. Obviously you have hormones. I had the Mirena coil, and then I now have the depot injection. I'm not sure if that's a reason why I don't. I'm not complaining. I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. It's a bit difficult for me to know when my menstrual cycle is because of that though. I do find it quite hard because obviously you can tell when your period is because you bleed and things. So I get extremely bad pains, so I assume, I call it like my invisible period because I don't bleed, but I get horrendous pains. Like I get bad stomach anyway because of my bowel, and that's what I've had the past 2 years in terms of my bowel, but when I'm on as well, the pain is like excruciating for me, and I find that training actually does help me, which is weird, I guess, because some people like would like the last thing they think of is like to go to the gym to go and train. But when I start moving and I'm actually doing something, I feel 10 times better. I do get a really bad back. I am predominantly, my left side of my lower back gets extremely sore. I get quite stiff. I feel very lethargic, and this is usually in the last week of my menstrual cycle, because this is when you feel the most fatigued, probably like not depressed, but you feel pretty low, you're quite anxious and stuff like that, because progesterone is your main hormone. But I mean, yeah, I get pains, yeah, to answer that. When did you get your period, and what are the ways to help with cramps? So like I said, I think I was like 16, 15. It was actually a swim camp when I was in Cyprus, and I was like, what the hell is that? And I was away from home and stuff, so it was like super scary for me. In terms of dealing with cramps, Feminax is fantastic. Hot water bottles, going on walks to get your body moving, get blood moving around your body, drinking lots of water, staying hydrated, eating nutritious food really helps me as well. And that's everything I think of. And heat packs for my back, because I do get a really bad back. I seem to have stubborn fat that won't shift. Okay, let's talk about stubborn fat on a woman. When we are born as women, naturally we have more fat than men, because our being, our presence is to reproduce. If there was no women, there's no world. You can't reproduce without a woman. Now, a woman's physiology, her body is made to carry a baby. So our bodies are made for pregnancy. Like during pregnancy, you're meant to have an extra 50,000 calories. Not in terms of the fact that you're feeding for two. That's a bit of a myth. It's been blown out of proportion. You probably only need like an extra 200 calories a day, if that. Women store more fat than men, and that is what it is. That's our physiology. Like I said, we are going to carry a baby. To give you an example, if I ate the exact same food as Ben, so if me and Ben sat down and had a Domino's pizza and we had half each, it would take me probably a third of the time more to burn off those calories. You've eaten the exact same thing, say like 1,000 calories each or whatever it would be in this giant pizza. It would take us, different times to burn off those calories. So don't beat yourself up if you're not losing fat like that in comparison to your other half, your brother, whoever it is, your friend. that's fine. You're not supposed to do that. The one thing I would suggest in terms of fat loss and weight loss is obviously a calorie deficit, which is just lowering your calories to an extent where you will be dropping weight, but then also keeping your protein higher. So a high protein, low calorie diet if your aim is fat loss or if your aim is weight loss. So when you have more protein, obviously this is perfect for your repair and recovery of your muscle cells, your muscle fibers and things like that. And because you have a lower calorie intake, your calorie deficit, your calorie expenditure is different. You are burning more calories than you are consuming on a day-to-day basis, so you will lose fat. This is the best advice that I can give you for fat loss is calorie deficit, a high protein diet, and then resistance training 2 to 3 times a week. You will be stronger, you will be sexier, your body will have shape, you will have a bum, you will have sexy arms. Just do it. Get away from this whole thing of being a cardio bunny, loving carbs and fats and not eating a lot of protein and being scared of protein shakes. It'll change your life. Literally, it will change your life. But with those stubborn bits of fat, don't beat yourself up. I store like an extra butt of fat under my glutes. Like I just store a lot of fat on my thighs, and I'm fine with that. It's not gonna go. I don't really care if that doesn't go. Obviously, if you have quite a substantial amount of fat and weight to lose, yeah, you will be able to lose that completely. But don't expect yourself to be like stage ready, stepping on stage like these bodybuilders do, because that's not obviously healthy. Okay, so this is one of the biggest questions that I've had, and it is how to train on your menstrual cycle or with your cycle. So a woman's menstrual cycle usually lasts 28 to 29 days. If you have PCOS, this can go up to like 34, 35 days depending. I'm not 100% sure on that, but a usual menstrual cycle is 28 days. So for example, your midway point is 2 weeks in. So 2 weeks in, your 4-week block is your ovulation. Now, this is where your testosterone is the highest, okay? So testosterone is a hormone. When you have this, so 2 weeks in the middle, you will be getting PBs in the gym. You'll feel so strong. You will feel incredible. You will feel unstoppable because of this increase in this hormone. In your first 2 weeks, you are estrogen dominant, which is one of your hormones. And it's actually like, I think people like demonize estrogen and they don't like it and stuff like that, but it's really good for muscular fatigue and recovery and oxidation of fat. So that is in your first 2 weeks, and then you hit ovulation. And then after ovulation, you hit your luteal phase, which is where your progesterone, which is another hormone, is actually higher. Now, during this phase, this is where you feel fatigued, you feel nauseous, you feel a bit shit, I'm not gonna lie, and you're just pretty tired. So it's kind of like that 3rd week. If you're hitting the gym and you're not hitting PBs and you feel shit and you've just dropped like 20 kg from what you did last week, understand where you are in your menstrual cycle, understand your own physiology and how to deal with different cycles. So like first 2 weeks, you'll feel pretty sound. Ovulation will come and you'll feel like a monster in the gym, testosterone flying, feeling fab. But then you might take a dip. Not everyone does, and that's fine. But if you do, understand why that is happening to you. The last week is PMS, and this is before you start your whole cycle again. And this is probably the lowest week. So like I said, those last 2 weeks, that luteal phase, you will start to feel more fatigue, but predominantly the last week, you're much more prone to injury. So basically being more careful around yourselves. You'll be craving foods. You might feel a bit like, not depressed, like I said before, but a bit like low in yourself and quite bad low self-esteem. So you just need to know your session. So if you're about to hit like 5x5 heavy squats and you just do not feel up to it, jump on a leg press, do something else, do something where you'll have a good session, but you're not putting yourself in those boundaries where you're going to affect your emotions and feel worse about yourself, really. So that was one of the biggest topics that I wanted to touch on, but let me just do a few more questions. I have bowel problems. Okay, a lot of people have bowel problems. I am now one of them. IBS is irritable bowel syndrome. I don't have that, but I know that is the most common bowel symptom, I guess, and stuff like that, and how you feel. It can be excruciatingly painful. There's some days I physically feel like I'm going to explode. I cannot get out of bed. My bloat oh my god, I look like 8 months pregnant some mornings, and I'm like, oh, I haven't even eaten yet, where has this come from? And it's just one of those things, like, I, at the moment, I'm taking some gut health supplements. I'm taking psyllium husk, I'm taking probiotics, I'm taking L-glutamine, and they are all proven and researched to help your gut health. Obviously, your gut health helps your bowels, so I will pop those on the screen for you anyway and link them below in case you want to have a look. They have helped me over the past few weeks, specifically the psyllium husk, as it does help move your bowels, you know, go to the loo and stuff like that. So you just kind of need to understand as much as you can your food triggers, what is wrong with you, what triggers the pain, what doesn't trigger the pain. Go to the doctor. The doctors you had to be so persistent with. It took me 2 years and I had to end up going private to have surgery, so it's difficult, I think, with the doctors. If you're not persistent, they will literally give up on you. But yeah. Okay, so the last question I'm going to answer for you is the symptoms with endo or bowel. So I don't have endometriosis. I was very fortunate not to have it, and we realised that after the surgery. My symptoms were extremely bad stomach pains. Not stomach, it is like your bowel and your womb kind of sit together, so it's difficult to differentiate them, but extremely bad pains. More pretty much ended up being like every 3 days I was in so much pain, very fatigued, couldn't get out of bed. I didn't actually bloat at all at the start, which is why we didn't know it was bowels, because I hadn't bloated once until after my surgery. So, but bloating is now a symptom. I think for some people they get really bad diarrhea and constipation as well with IBS. I'm not too sure with that one. Really bad pain during sex, which is again something that I don't have anymore. I was very emotional. I kept crying quite a lot of the time. I get stressed really easily. Also stress, if I was more stressed or anxious, my stomach would absolutely kill. It would hurt me so much. So I was very aware of like my cortisol levels and my stress levels. Just feeling a bit shit in myself, really, just not feeling like myself. Didn't want to speak much, didn't want to do much, found it really hard to do my job. But obviously the main thing for me was the pain in my stomach. But yeah, I hope this was helpful in terms of like fat loss for women, your menstrual cycle, your periods, cramps, pains, bowel issues. I just really wanted to touch on it because I get asked so often. I thought I'd put it all in one place for you. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a huge thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. I really appreciate your support, more than you will ever know. But I'm going to love you and leave you, and see you in my next one. Bye!